JHM here with the B9 A4 shifter install. First off, you can see we taped everything off. Well, anything that's going to be left on the center column. You don't want to pull up the center trim and then have one of the clips hit anything and scratch, so it's better to be safe than sorry. Also, right now the battery is disconnected. If the key is in the vicinity and you hit one of these buttons, you have a chance of waking the car up and turning something on. You'll see later that we will be disconnecting all of this. So first off, there is one screw underneath this little guy right here. Once you get that screw off, I have these little, a lot of technicians have these in their toolbox. They're little trim tools. Great for any interior work if you don't want to scratch anything up. You gotta be careful, if you are too forceful, you can still scratch interior. So you want to be as gentle as you can be. There is a connector under here you'll need to disconnect. That's for the volume control. And then this whole piece just slides out. There's another T20 screw right here. And after that, you're going to gently pry up all the way around. You'll see here in a second. You can try to give it a tug. If you can get your fingers under here, sometimes it'll help just to push up. And then again, here comes the trim tool. Just try to work your way around. You definitely don't want to focus in one spot. Slide it back. Now once you got all the connectors disconnected, I'll flip it around once we get it off and show you exactly how many there are and where they're at. On the shifter itself for the knob, there is a one-time use clamp. Our kit comes with a worm clamp to replace this, but to get this off, you can see I have a 90-degree pick here. Kind of just want to get underneath the clamp. You know, everybody's got their own technique. And then once you're inside, in the middle there, just wiggle back and forth. What you're doing is releasing the tension on that clamp. And if you get it just right, you can actually pop the clamp up and off. Or loosen it enough to drop it down. And then after that, you can grab the knob. Kind of give it a gentle wiggle, don't pop yourself in the face. Just like that. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and flip it over so you can see how many connectors there are. Down on the bottom, this is your vehicle control for the display. Up here, this is actually the memory for your radio. Right here's a parking brake. You have lighting for the cup holders. It looks like that's about it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 connectors. Now under here we have a bunch of sound insulation. This just simply lifts up. There is a rubber boot over the shifter. And there are 2 tabs down here that you'll need to pull up on. You just get your finger in there. And then pull back. Kind of slides in. And just work it up and over the shifter. Just like that. Now you could actually see all the shifter components from here, and you should be able to see all the way down to the ground. And there are 2 T45s, one for the stabilizer rod and one for the actual adjustment of the shifter. So we're going to start off, we're going to go ahead and remove those two T45s. There's the one for the stabilizer rod. There's the one for the actual shifter adjustment. Alright, so there are 4 10mm holding the shifter box up into place. We're going to go ahead and back these out. And most of the rest of the work is going to be underneath the car at that point. Alright, here's the view from the bottom. Here's your shifter base. We've already taken the bolts out from the top as earlier in the video. Here is the shifter adjustment. Here's the stabilizer rod. As you can see, this heat shielding is really flexible. You can just grab it, pull it down a little bit. It doesn't require a lot of force. Definitely don't want to crinkle it. And you're going to take a flat blade screwdriver and you're going to spread the adjustment open so you can pull the shifter up and off of the adjustment rod. So you're just going to stick a screwdriver right in there. So here's a reference about how far we had to spread that open. There is a tab on the end of the linkage rod that you're going to have to make it over. So once you spread that open, go ahead and slide that shifter, the adjuster rod out, pull the stabilizer rod out of the shifter. So the plastic portion that goes around the shifter is going to have to come off the base. So here's the plastic portion that had the 4 10mm nuts holding it up to the body. Here's the actual shifter base. So just kind of slide that off to the point of when you go ahead and slide the shifter out and drop it on your face. Just like that. Alright, so now that we have the shifter out and on the table, there is a 10mm nut on this side with a bolt that goes through. You're going to want to separate the base first. Just like that. Now we're going to walk over to a bench clamp. We're going to put this in the bench clamp and we're going to use a screwdriver to pop up on each side. There's a retaining tab. Once you pop these up, you'll be able to lift this shifter out, and the only thing you're going to reuse out of all of this, obviously, be careful, that might fall out on you. The only thing you're going to reuse out of all this is the base itself. We're over here at the bench clamp. Like I said, you're going to take a screwdriver, just kind of pop that up. Be careful not to stab yourself. Just like that. And it slides out just like that. Now we went ahead and took off the base so you can slip the shifter through the shifter base. On the B9 there is a tab that you have to line up here when you're sliding it in. So push it down with your hand and just, the mallet's a little big, you know, I'm not going to apply a lot of pressure here. Just a few good taps. Alright, now that we have everything assembled, we're going to go ahead and put all this back up in the car. The shifter and the base have to go up into the car separately, or else you're never going to be able to push it out unless you drop the back of the trans. Go ahead and slide the shifter up in there. So here's the front of the shifter base. You can see where the sound insulation slides in right here, and this is where the clips were. So this is the front of the shifter base. The shifter base is up into actual base that bolts down to the car. You can see the rails are slid right over. You're going to want to go ahead and slide the stabilizer rod into the shifter. As you can see, you could slide the shifter back. Let me try to get my hand back here. You could slide the shifter back and forth, so there'll be a little bit of room. Slide the shifter all the way back, slide the stabilizer rod on. And then you're going to want to make sure that the reverse notch is on the correct side. This should be facing forward. The actual lower linkage part of the shifter should be facing forward. Go ahead and slide shifter base over this linkage rod, just like that. Alright, so we're back at the top. I pulled the shifter back up and into place. We put the 410s just hand tight right now. I'm going to go ahead and tighten them down. Alright, so now you can actually move the shifter back and forth. The adjustment rod isn't even tight yet. As you can hear, I just popped out of gear. So you want to start with the transmission in neutral. There we go. So first you're going to put the stabilizer T45 bolt back in. Go ahead and tighten that down. And then you're going to want to thread the linkage T45 bolt back in. Have a nice little magnet here. So now again, the stabilizer, the T45, I set it about middle. When you move that forward and backward, it'll set your center line of your shifter forward and backwards. And if you go too far to one side, you might not be able to engage the gear all the way. So you want to kind of start off in the middle. For the actual shifter adjustment, you want to go ahead and tighten it all the way down. Keep the shifter about in mid-size. And I'm just basically clamping down the linkage on the bottom of the shifter down on the rod. And then go ahead and back it off so you can adjust it. So we're about center here. Go ahead and test it out. Now again, the stabilizer rod, I'll show you what it does when I loosen that up. If you push the shifter forward or backwards, it'll kind of bias the shifter center line. That's why I kind of like to put it in the middle. Now, I mean, it's almost infinitely adjustable, but obviously you don't want neutral to be way over here or towards the driver's side or towards the passenger side. Neutral, you want to kind of keep it in the center. So the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and then reverse. So the trick to this, I like to put it in first, grab it, and just feel the play. And then go ahead and go over to fifth, feel the play. It should be about the same. You could do the same in sixth and in second. But you should have about the same amount of play in each gear. Now if you're too far to one side, when you shift it into first, the shifter won't move. You'll sit there and wiggle it, and it'll just be a little bit too tight. We're going to go ahead and install the biscuits that actually hold the shifter in place. So on each side, on the factory, there's going to be white plastic clips that's actually built into the shifter. Obviously we upgrade with a metal bearing, so we include these little keys that are going to slide right in, just like that. And those are going to keep the shifter from pulling out of place. Now what's going to keep those in place is on your factory sealing boot, there's actually a white plastic ring that is designed to sit right around that shifter. So I went ahead and pulled this boot off just to kind of give you guys a better idea of what we were talking about. This is the plastic ring that's going to hold the biscuits in place. You can see the biscuits sticking out just a little bit on each side, so the plastic ring is actually going to preload the biscuits. It's going to sit on there just like that. And this ring is actually made to sit right inside this rubber piece. I just kind of pulled it apart just so everybody could see. You're going to have to make sure that this rubber on the piece that actually clips into the car is pushed all the way down. That way the ring can engage the biscuits. Now that this is all back together, the rubber boot is back on. You're just going to go ahead and take the zip tie that we include. You're just going to put a little bit of pressure right here on the spring, just to kind of keep it from popping off. Not a lot. Now we're going to go ahead and move forward with all the controls and the shifter knob, the boot. We include this 1/4 inch worm clamp to hold the knob on now that we've cut off that one-time use clamp. So what this is going to do is just going to sit here just like this, and it is a 1/4 inch tool to tighten this up, and you're just going to clamp it down onto the shifter. Alright, now we got our shifter clamp in place. Everything is reconnected on the bottom. All the insulation's all in. I'm just going to go ahead and slide that shifter boot, or the shifter knob, right over the shifter. Give it a couple push downs to make sure it's seated all the way. And just take your ratchet and tighten down this clamp right over the area that I showed you. Give it a couple good tugs, make sure she's not going to slide off. I'm going to slide everything right back into place. One T20 bolt right here. And then there's another cover that slides over everything else. There is a connector here for the volume. Another T20 bolt down here. And then lastly, just a simple little cover that drops right down. There's actually a little alignment dowel right there. And she is ready to go.